Time to talk a little racing. As it's been a while, but we're excited to have Larry McReynolds back on the show to talk some NASCAR with us. Larry, of course, from Fox Sports. Hi, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hope you guys are as well.
We're great. We're great. Appreciate you taking a couple minutes for us. Big race weekend. Obviously, here we are in the playoffs. Lots of news off the track as well. And man, it's just it's a great time of year if you're into NASCAR.
Well, it really is. And I was actually reflecting earlier today on a radio show that I do each day on Sirius. 7 months ago, roughly, give or take a day or two, we were getting ready to race in Atlanta, and that's when the pandemic really kicked in and everything was postponed. And we all left Atlanta and headed back home and had no idea when we would return to racing, if we would return to racing this year. It was a full bucket of unknowns. And to know here we are now, basically on October the 8th, and we are already halfway through the playoffs for the Cup Series and only have 5 more race weekends for the top 3 series of NASCAR, and the schedules will be completed. I'm not sure that's anything we saw coming, but we're just very grateful and very thankful that the people guiding this ship put a program together that allowed us to do this.
Hey, what do you think? And I know it's probably very hard to pinpoint, but just kind of off the top of your head, what do you think what was impacted the most as far as on-track racing? And it could be a certain driver or storyline or whatever, but, something that you think this COVID impacted most when it comes to actual racing.
Well, I can't argue with the racing that we've had on the racetrack week in and week out. You think about it, in the Cup Series, since we returned at Darlington in mid-May, only 1 lap has been turned on a racetrack aside from the race itself. No practice, no qualifying. At the Coke 600 back at Charlotte in May, they did Sunday morning. They did do qualifying. Every driver got 1 lap. But outside of that, there has been not a single lap turned. And, you would think, well, that would hurt the racing. But I got to be honest. I feel like the racing has been about as good as we could ask for. And I think that's probably one reason that as NASCAR released the 2021 schedule a couple of weeks ago, they followed it back up by saying at 28 of our 36 race weekends next year, it's going to be the same format. We're going to show up, we're going to put them through inspection, we're going to line them up, and we're going to race them. But I think that just goes to show you the caliber of race car drivers that we have, but more than anything, the caliber of race teams. Yeah, there's been some hiccups. There's been some snafus. There's been some mechanical issues, but a very, very small amount when you think about that 3,350-pound race car with hundreds of working components, and the first lap it saw every single weekend was when it drove off into Turn 1 with the green flag waving to start the race.
Larry, you go back to the 90s and early 2000s, take a track like Bristol. They could have put 400,000 seats in there and they'd have filled them all up. What's it going to take once, obviously, the comfort level gets back for the fans after the pandemic to get back to those times?
Well, I got to be realistic. I don't know that we will ever get back to 160,000 plus people at Bristol Motor Speedway, or grandstands every racetrack packed to the gills. Regardless when we return to normal and how things are, I think we all got greedy as racetracks, and every racetrack, quite honestly, overbuilt. But I won't say the problem was. The good thing was when they were doing this back, 10, 15 years ago, it was a case of you build them, they will come and sit in them. But I just think that the way our society is today, with all the other alternatives that people have, aside from watching a cup race, whether it's as a fan in the stands or whether it's at home, on the broadcast, I just don't know that we're going to get there. But, that doesn't concern me. I always use Michigan International Speedway as a great example. It's a track that over the last number of years we go to twice a year. We're only going to go there once next year, but the last few years we've been there in June, we've been there in August. And I can't stick my head in the stand and not observe that there were probably 15, 20,000 empty seats. It's the facts of life. But with the number of seats they have there, the number of people that attended, and an infield full of people that you probably couldn't have taken a shoehorn and put another person into, there still were 70 or 80,000 people there. You know, that's more people than attend a Super Bowl every year. So I guess it's more, do you look at the glass half empty? Do you look at it half full? I tend to look at it half full. Even at tracks where we have a number of empty stands, there's still a lot of people attending that event.
Larry McReynolds, Larry Mac, America's crew chief, joining us here on the Sportsline, talking some racing and, talking about, the interest in NASCAR and obviously so many other, options out there, as you pointed out. But, a bit of news that broke several weeks ago, and love to get your thoughts on it. But Michael Jordan entering the world of NASCAR as a owner, along with Denny Hamlin. Bubba Wallace going to drive that car. Is Jordan's involvement something you think that will have a lasting impact on bringing new fans to NASCAR? Or, was that something that was maybe more of a, a big splash because of his name when the news broke, but the type of impact that it may have long term may be negligible? What do you think?
Yeah, I not only think it has an impact on NASCAR as a sport, I think it has an impact on sports in general, that someone of his magnitude, just, maybe the GOAT of basketball, the greatest of all time, has decided to come and take ownership in a NASCAR Cup Series team. Now, I think Michael will probably be the first to tell you this. They have to go out and they have to perform. And I'm not sitting here saying they have to go out and win races next year. That's going to be a pretty vertical mountain. You starting a brand new team in the NASCAR Cup Series, it is a tall challenge. I don't care how much money you have or how many resources you have to pull from. That is a tall order. But I just think they have to go out and they have to be competitive. And I think they have to grow. And I think if they just are out there, and I have no reason to believe they will be, but if they're just out there making circles, the novelty will eventually go away. I don't think Michael Jordan will be that patient. Michael Jordan is a winner, and he expects to run up front. He expects to win. But I think it's just a huge impact, I think, on the sports world in general. You just don't have something like this happening that often. The last time I feel like it happened to NASCAR, I think you got to go back probably 28, 29 years ago when Super Bowl winning coach Joe Gibbs decided to come to NASCAR and become an owner. But they have performed. I mean, look at the races they've won. Look at the championships they've won. And I think, eventually that's what the team of Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, and driver Bubba Wallace will have to do.
Larry, I have to tell you, though, saying Jordan may be the GOAT, I mean, those are fighting words, man.
I know. I listen to it on TV talk shows every single day.
Larry, a guy with some local connections here to Liberty University in Lynchburg is William Byron, and he making the playoffs again this year. Where do you put him as far as the progression that you would have expected for such a young driver?
I think it's on track. And, I know it took him, 99 races to finally find victory lane when he won at Daytona a few weeks ago. But think about this. It took Chase Elliott 98 or 99 races. It took Ryan Blaney 99 or 100 races. I think the days of young rookies walking into the Cup Series like Jimmy Johnson did in 2002, like Tony Stewart did in 1999, Jeff Gordon in 1994. The days of a young rookie walking into the Cup Series with the way the competition is today and start winning races hand over fist, I think that ship maybe has sailed. I know Cole Custer, a rookie, won a race this year at Kentucky Speedway driving the 41 for Stewart-Haas Racing. But I would hate to be a young driver this past year in this sport because, testing has pretty much been scratched anyhow, regardless of the pandemic. But then to have to roll into these racetracks every single week, no practice, no qualifying, line it up and race, that has to be a tall order. But I think William Byron has done what he needed to do. He's made the playoffs now 2 consecutive years. He finally found victory lane. And I think you will see this progression continue to grow. Now, we don't know who his crew chief is going to be in 2021. It's already been announced. Chad Canals will be stepping off the pit box, becoming vice president of competition over there at Hendrick Motorsports. So next year will be Williams' 4th year, but it will be his 3rd crew chief in 4 years. And you know what? Whoever they put with him, it may take a little time for them to gel and start getting their act together.
Big race coming up in Charlotte this weekend, and as we get ready to cut it down to the final 8, Larry, tell me a little bit more about this roval that was adopted by NASCAR a couple years ago.
Yeah, this will be the 3rd year to run the roval, and something about Bruton and Marcus Smith and the people at SMI that own Charlotte Motor Speedway, along with a number of other racetracks, they're not afraid to step outside the box. And I think they finally realized that the 500-mile race, 334 laps that we were running every fall at Charlotte Motor Speedway on the 1.5-mile oval, it just had lost its pop. People, I think, were getting a little bit over too many races on the 1.5-mile tracks that we raced at. So they decided, you know what, we're going to step outside the box. We're going to create, it's not really the oval. It's maybe not what you call a true road course, so we'll just call it a roval because it's a road course and it's an oval combined. And I look at these first 2 years of the racing that we had there and the drama that unfolded at the end with it being in the playoffs. Last couple of years, it's been a cutoff race for round 1. This year, it's the cutoff race from round 2 that will take us from 12 to 8 drivers when we leave there on Sunday. And the fact that probably a little more drama this year. As we all know, the forecast in the Charlotte, North Carolina area over the weekend does not look that good because of things that's coming on from Hurricane Delta down on the Gulf Coast right now. We may be racing in the rain with rain tires and wet weather tires on Sunday. So it'll be interesting and kind of be very fun to watch.
That does sound like fun. And speaking of fun, what about bringing dirt into Bristol next year?
Well, I repeat myself. Bristol is another one of those tracks that's owned by SMI, Bruton Smith, Marcus Smith. We go to Bristol twice a year. I think the fans have been asking for a dirt race in the Cup Series. We've had one for a number of years in the Truck Series up at Eldora Speedway. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go there this year because of this pandemic. But stepping out of the box again, when we go there in the spring, one of the races that we cover on Fox and FS1, it'll be the same racetrack, same venue, same drivers, but for the first time in 50 years, the Cup Series will be racing on dirt. They've actually put dirt on that racetrack before several years ago for a World of Outlaws race, but now we're going to do it for a Cup race in the spring of next year.
Hey, Larry, let me ask you this. As we head into this race, cutoff race for the final 8, as you mentioned, Kurt Busch, a little bit of a monkey wrench in the works, is he would not be in the top 8 points-wise, but he got that win, which pushes him in, which ironically kind of leaves his brother right now on the outside looking in. Do I have that right?
You do, yeah. If Kurt had not have won that race at Las Vegas, Kurt would be below that cut line, and his brother would be inside the top 8, but now Kurt is locked in. Denny Hamlin's locked in because of his win at Talladega this past weekend. Then you've got 6 drivers above that cut line, and then the 4 below it, Kyle Busch is minus 21, Austin Dillon's minus 21, and then 2 drivers that really the math doesn't show it, but realistically it shows that they're going to have to win on Sunday, and that's Clint Boyer and his Stewart-Haas Racing teammate, Eric Almirola. They are 38 and 48 points below the cut line. They need to go out there with one thing and one thing only, and that's try to win this race because I think that's the only way they'll stay part of the playoff party.
Who makes it? What do you think?
Honestly, I think the top 8 we're looking at is the top 8. Now, a lot of things can happen at the Charlotte Roval. We've seen it these first 2 years. It's easy to get off the racetrack. It's easy to overshoot one of the corners. It's hard on equipment. We see a lot of chassis components take a beating because of those rumble strips, or as they call them, the turtle shells. So, but I think just straight up racing, when I look at those 6 drivers above the cut line, Harvick, Elliott, who won this race a year ago, Brad Keselowski, Truex, who has his share of road course wins, Alex Bowman, finished second there a year ago, and Joe Logano, I just don't see those 4 below the cut line running well enough to beat those 6. So honestly, if I was any of those 4 drivers or crew chiefs below the cut line, I'm headed to Charlotte. I'm maybe going to run it stage by stage and see where everybody's at, but I think you have to go out there with the mentality, we're going to have to win if we want to stay alive.
Larry Mac, thank you, man. Been so good catching up with you once again. It's been too long. We'd love to stay in touch.
No, I'd love to, and I encourage people, follow me on Twitter at LarryMac28. I love interacting with fans and trying to answer all the questions I can. I've become very active on Instagram, posting a lot of pictures and videos here lately, and that's LarryMac28. And we got a brand new revamped website. Please give it a visit, LarryMcReynolds.com.
Larry Mac on Instagram, huh?
I just now finally got my fax machine working. Here I am on Instagram.
Well, that's fantastic. Certainly encourage everyone to check out you on all your different platforms. Thank you, man. Larry, appreciate it.
All right, you guys stay safe, and just everybody, God bless and take care.